Welcome to the Wisconsin Government Accountability Board's Eye on Lobbying webinar training series. In this webinar, we will explain how to register as a lobbying principal, how to authorize a lobbyist on behalf of your organization, and how to amend a lobbying principal registration. You are required to register as a lobbying principal if you are a business or organization that pays an individual to try to influence legislation or administrative rulemaking, and that individual communicates with state officials or legislative employees on 5 or more days during a 6-month reporting period. Reporting periods run from January 1st through June 30th and July 1st through December 31st. You must have a user account and must be logged onto the site before you can register a lobbying principal. If you do not have a user account or are having difficulty logging into the site, please refer to the training materials on creating an account and resetting your password. If you are re-registering an existing principal, you must also have been granted permission for that principal. Log into the Eye on Lobbying website. From the left-hand menu, choose Registration and Licensing. Then click on Register a Principal. Please make sure you have selected the correct legislative session. This can be changed using the drop-down menu near the top of the page and will display at the top of the registration form area. Next, select whether you need to register a new lobbying principal that has never been registered in Wisconsin, or if you would like to re-register a lobbying principal. Selecting Re-register an existing principal will pre-populate most of the registration information based on the most recent registration. Choosing this option will take you to a page to search for previously registered lobbying principals. Once a principal is selected, you will be guided through a review of the previous registration information and can update the application as needed. Do not create a new lobbying principal if it already exists in the system. The site will allow you to resume or delete an incomplete lobbying principal registration that you have created. Click on Register a New Principal. Enter the name of the organization as you would like it to appear on the Eye on Lobbying website. Enter the principal contact information. This should be someone who works directly for the lobbying principal that G.A.B. staff can contact. Enter correspondence information, which is optional. If there is someone else that you would like to receive correspondence on behalf of the principal, such as reminders to file reports, you may provide their contact information here. Review the information you entered and then click Save and Continue. Select the type of lobbying principal that best describes the organization. Additional information is required depending on the category selected. Business entities and industry, trade, or professional associations must provide a description of the business interests and the name and title of the CEO. Governmental, labor union, and charitable, religious, civic, and other not-for-profit organizations must list organization's purpose and interests as well as the approximate number of members. Required fields are marked with an asterisk. Enter the policy areas that the organization may attempt to influence during the legislative session. Do not provide vague and uninformative statements such as all matters affecting the organization. This is your opportunity to provide legislators, staff, and the public with a concise statement about the organization's interests and priorities. Next, identify the state agencies that you intend to lobby. All is the most common selection. Next, select whether this organization anticipates performing full or limited lobbying activities. Full lobbying means that the organization expects to spend more than $500 in a calendar year, including payments to a lobbyist. A limited lobbying principal expects to spend less than $500 in a calendar year. Upon spending more than $500, a limited principal must amend their registration to full lobbying and pay the difference in registration fees within 10 days. Limited lobbying principals will be covered in more detail in a separate webinar. This webinar uses the example of a principal performing full lobbying activities. After making your selection, click on Save and Continue at the bottom of the page. Click on Authorize Lobbyists. Search for and select a licensed lobbyist. The lobbyist must have applied for a license for the session in order to be authorized by the principal. We suggest using part of the lobbyist's last name to search. Select the type of lobbyist, that is, whether the person is an in-house lobbyist who is employed directly by the organization or if they are a contract lobbyist. Click on Save. Repeat the process to add additional lobbyist authorizations. The Commands column allows you to edit or delete authorizations if needed. After you have added each lobbyist you wish to authorize, click on Continue to proceed. Fees for lobbyist authorizations are discussed in a separate webinar as well as displayed on the Eye on Lobbying website. The next step in the registration process is to grant user permissions. As the user registering the lobbying principle, you are automatically granted full permissions. You have the option to grant permissions to additional users, such as your authorized lobbyists or administrative staff. To add permissions, first click on Add User Permissions. Next, search for the user, click on their name, and then click on Select User Account. We suggest you verify their username before granting permissions. If the person you wish to grant permissions to does not yet have an account, you can create a new user account. Choose which permissions you wish to grant by clicking inside the box next to the desired permissions and then click the Save button. You may repeat this process and add as many users as you would like. The Commands column also allows you to edit or delete user permissions. After you have added all desired users, click on the Continue button at the bottom of the page. If you are renewing a lobbying principle registration, you will be given the option to carry over lobbying topics you identified in the last legislative session so that you do not have to re-enter that information. This feature is new for the 2015-2016 legislative session. Click the Add button next to each of the topics you wish to carry over. Those topics you do not add while registering will not be carried over. If you later decide you would like to add these, you may do so through the normal 15-day reporting process. Instructions on 15-day reporting is discussed in detail during a separate webinar. When you have added all of the previously reported topics you wish to carry over, click on the Continue button. Next, review your registration application summary. If you need to make any changes, use the Back button to navigate through your application to the area you need to update. If all of the information is correct, please review the certification statement and then click on the Certify button to submit your registration. Please note that the principal registration process is not complete until all applicable fees are paid. A separate webinar explains how to pay lobbying fees using the website. You can amend the lobbying principal registration to update contact information, business interests, areas of lobbying, lobbyist authorizations, and user permissions. You must have permission to amend the principal registration. Log into ION Lobbying. Select Amend Principal Registration from the left-hand menu. Select the correct legislative session. Select the principal registration and click Amend Principal Registration. Edit the principal registration information as desired. Use the Save and Continue button to proceed. You can also jump to Edit Authorize Lobbyists or Edit Principal Permissions. Certify the registration after you review the information. If you have not yet paid the applicable fees, you will then have the opportunity to do so. Please refer to training materials on paying fees for additional information or contact G.A.B. staff using the contact information provided on the final slide of this presentation. Thank you for watching this G.A.B. ION Lobbying webinar training. We encourage you to utilize other training materials available on our website, including manuals, guidelines, and other webinar videos as they become available. Please contact us if you have any questions regarding the information presented in this webinar or anything else related to lobbying in Wisconsin and using the ION Lobbying website.